Hey, I'm Anthony Romano, and the title of this video is Just Eat the Yolks, damn it. Like, start eating the yolks of eggs when you are consuming eggs, okay? I've had this question asked to me a billion times, and I'm going to give you some of the general arguments as to why people think you shouldn't eat the yolks in eggs and why you should. And ultimately, you'll see why eating the yolks is far better for you, and it's ultimately just a stupid idea that was born out of flawed scientific research from like the 60s as to why you shouldn't eat the yolks of eggs. So I'm going to explain this, and also keep in mind there are other quality concerns such as the quality of the eggs, and dairy products do have a wide variance in terms of their quality. Okay, with a lot of other, animal products, if we're talking meat products, the variances in the quality are still significant, but they're not as heavy and important as the differences in dairy. High quality eggs are far better. They're a completely different world, completely different product than low quality eggs and dairy. So that's something you should take away as well and keep in mind for this video. If you could like the video, that will make YouTube show my stuff to more people, and that's what you have to do to help me grow my page. That's all you have to do. And if you could also subscribe if you like this content. If you watch more than 3 of my videos, just subscribe to me already, okay? And also follow me on Instagram. All right, let's get into this. So if you've seen my other videos, you know that I've spoken plenty about the egg bulk techniques, or the egg diet, or the golden era bodybuilding 36 eggs a day approach, okay? And my sort of modern take on this with the 10 to 15 egg a day bodybuilding technique. Okay, this is an idea that I've gotten from Vince Gironda, the golden era bodybuilding trainer. I have some videos on his stuff. My friend Golden Era Bookworm has some amazing videos on this, which you might have seen, and I encourage you to check out if you haven't. But at the same time, this was a golden era strategy from Vince Gironda, the Iron Guru, the guy who trained Arnold. He trained all the classic bodybuilders, and he was strict. He would force you to do his techniques. If you didn't, he would kick you out. So that's why I advocate for the sort of, deeper end of the pool here with these egg bulking techniques. But regardless of if you're doing those or not, whenever you are consuming eggs, eat the yolk, okay? If you are doing an intense cut, and you're really lowering your calories and getting specific, that's the only scenario really where you will benefit by consuming solely the whites, okay? Because you're just treating it as liquid protein. In that case, yes, there are benefits to using it in a cooking context for certain recipes. There's benefits to if you're on just poverty calories, then yeah, you can have the whites for solely a protein scenario when that's your only concern. But even then, you shouldn't even be in a severe calorie deficit, because that will basically tell your body that you are in an intense famine and your body should hang on to body fat. You can watch my videos on those topics as well, that you should never diet on super low calories. Ultimately, this is also why ketogenic dieting allows you to get better hormonal control while not necessarily needing a severe calorie deficit, because your insulin, the fat storage hormone, is so much lower than what your body's used to. And you can ride that out until you hit a plateau, basically, where you have to start, minimizing calories a little bit. But let's get into the yolks. The yolks themselves. First of all, eggs, half of the amino acids are in the yolk, the other half are in the white. So when you are consuming eggs for the protein, you're only getting half of the amino acids. And the whole benefit of eggs as a food for protein is that they are a complete protein. They contain all the essential amino acids, and they also have essential fatty acids. So all the fatty acids are in the yolk. You have to think about what this egg was going to turn into. It was going to turn into a baby chicken. And the yolk is basically where all the nutrients are, because that's where the chicken was going to grow out of. Okay? The fats, essentially. And people are afraid of the fat for reasons I'll explain in a moment. And they're afraid of the cholesterol for reasons I'll explain in a moment, but the cholesterol stuff is ultimately explained better in other videos. Ultimately, with the white-only consumption, you are consuming 2 problematic proteins, avidin and albumin. And basically, these can bind to minerals in your body and nutrients, particularly biotin, which is a B vitamin, and they will leach them out. So when you are consuming solely egg whites, you are actually depleting your body of biotin. So besides the fact that this is a problem for many functions in the body, if you are the person who is afraid of yolks and you've been doing this for years and years and years, you're not getting all the nutrition that's in the egg yolk, and you're also depleting your body from years and years of adding in avidin and albumin. Another point here too is that of all the people I've worked with, some people do have allergies to albumin, and the only place you can, the only way you can test this at home besides an allergy test is cutting out the white and eating only the yolk and see if you have any symptoms of, whatever your allergy pertained. So when we're looking at the general lifestyle integration of eating the whole egg, of course, if you felt you've had some sort of adverse reaction, try eating only the yolk. At the same time, maybe hard boil it, eat the yolk, see if you have any reactions. But here's the other side of the coin. Because as I said before, the variances in dairy products in high quality and low quality are massive. So when we're looking at pasture raised, the highest quality eggs out there, organic pasture raised are generally the better dairy products. When we're looking at the lower tier, the industrial egg products and dairy products, the chickens are not only, of course, kept in terrible conditions, etc., etc., it's bad for them, but it shows up in their nutrition. They're being fed soy, grains, and GMOs, things that are not part of their natural diet. Now, granted, chickens will eat basically anything, okay? They will eat pretty much whatever you give them, and if you know anybody who's ever raised chickens, they will tell you these things will eat shit if you give it to them. But the point is, when chickens are scavenging in their natural area, they're going to eat insects, they're going to eat random seeds, they're going to eat stuff that's part of their natural diet, okay? And their nutritional quality increases when they do eat their natural lifestyle, because when they are fed things that they cannot digest, that are simply there to fatten them up, their yolk is going to contain more toxins. Some people think they have allergies to eggs, but they have allergies to soy, and allergies to grains and other wheat proteins, and those will show up in the yolk a little bit. So again, the difference in quality of dairy is massive. So that's also why I ultimately recommend for people to get the highest quality eggs they can afford at the time. And even if you can't, and you're doing some sort of, egg consumption for a bulking technique or just for overall health, on the whole, try to get better quality eggs most of the time. That's the best thing you can do. Doesn't mean that you're going to be, killing yourself if you eat, industrial eggs. But the main point to take away here is just try to get better ones more often. So what are the actual nutrients you're going to get from the yolk? You're going to get primarily the fat-soluble vitamins. So what this means for you is vitamin A, E, D, and K. These are the fat-soluble vitamins. Dairy will contain vitamin K. Vitamin K is massive, and all those 4 fat-soluble vitamins people are generally deficient in. So one thing you have to remember here is they are fat-soluble. They only exist in fatty foods, and they get stored in fatty tissue on your body. So in the context of other foods you can get these nutrients from, it's ultimately, what other options do you have? Okay, yes, you can have fish, of course, but most foods, especially people coming from very high carb diets, which is the norm nowadays, you're not getting these fat-soluble vitamins, and simply supplementing with them can be beneficial, but you have to consume them with fatty foods, the supplements, because they are fat-soluble. They digest in fat. So getting them from a bioavailable source like high-quality eggs is ultimately the best route for you to take. So with vitamin A, E, D, and K, vitamin D is almost like a hormone. It's technically a steroid hormone, and it's one that we get from the sun. So I'm sure you've heard plenty of benefits about vitamin D, but vitamin D3 is the actual form that does most of the work. And this is the animal form, and you can't simply supplement with vitamin D2. The same thing with vitamin K1. High quality dairy will have both of these, and these work together for calcium regulation, your bone density. They also work for your heart, for hormonal function. They're massive. And as far as anabolic processes and growing muscle, they are a huge difference maker. This is another reason why one of the supplements I recommend everybody to take is not only vitamin D, but a vitamin A, D, K supplement, because the ratios between those fat-soluble vitamins are integral. You have to have them in a certain ratio. You don't want to create an imbalance. So those are some of the nutrients you're going to be taking home. But as far as the cholesterol, a lot of the cholesterol your body makes, about 70% or so, actually comes independent of what you eat. So people are afraid of cholesterol, but cholesterol is all about context. You can watch my other videos to learn more. But for cholesterol, it's all about inflammation, okay? Think of cholesterol as a carrier of basically fatty fuel that can bypass your digestive system. In the context of a fast or a ketogenic diet, your body is using fat for more fuel, and it has to basically liberate that and transport it around throughout your bloodstream. If somebody is already metabolically compromised or something, they don't necessarily want to raise that. And ultimately, if they were to do something very low sugar and ketogenic, they would lower their triglyceride, which is basically pure fat in the bloodstream, and that would allow cholesterol to transport throughout the bloodstream without any sort of problems. Again, it's a far more nuanced topic, but ultimately the cholesterol you have to be afraid of is oxidized LDL, not simply LDL. LDL is a carrier of cholesterol, and it's only bad in certain contexts. I always explain this example from Eric Westman, I'm pretty sure, and Jimmy Moore, where cholesterol is like firefighters in your bloodstream. They're going to problems and fixing inflammation. It's one of the biggest anti-inflammatories in your body, and it's like fire trucks. They're going to put out fires. If there's a lot of fire trucks on the road, sure, you're going to run into problems, but if you clear the road by lowering your sugar intake, that will make things easier. But at the same time, the fire trucks are not responsible for the fire. They're simply going there to address the problem. This is why people, when they get injuries, will recover dramatically faster when they have higher cholesterol. Their cholesterol will raise simply as a byproduct of getting injured. This is very, verifiable science. And there are plenty of studies, if we're drawing back to the Vince Gironda golden era bodybuilding methods here, because the reason why bodybuilders started to use this technique of higher egg consumption was due to the fact that there were studies on burn patients with 80% of their body covered in burns, and they experienced massive reductions in the amount of burns all over their body by consuming 36 eggs a day. It's funky, it's wacky, it's a complete deep dive into the, far end of the pool. But this was partly due, in fact, to the raise in cholesterol and allowing the body to transport and fix inflammation in the body. Again, if somebody has a crappy diet already, you don't want to raise their cholesterol necessarily. But keep in mind, most of the food you eat is actually not going to raise your cholesterol. In fact, eating not enough cholesterol is going to make your body produce more cholesterol, and that's where some people could run into some of the problems. But when we're looking at the type of cholesterol that's in the egg, it's mostly the LDL raise is what it's going to create. But it's the large density LDL. It is the buoyant LDL that floats through your bloodstream and cleans out pathogens. It's like a security guard, as Dave Feldman, one of the most impressive cholesterol researchers out there, explains. This is a highly beneficial compound to have in your bloodstream. And again, the reason why, this is what I'll end with. The reason why people think this is a problem is because of Ansel Keys, who was a researcher in the 50s. And basically, he had a study called the 7 Nation Study, where basically they had people in 7 countries, but it was really 21, but they only kept 7 countries worth of data because the rest of it conflicted with what they wanted to prove. They basically wanted to prove that high fat was even though I'm not necessarily a high fat guy, I'm a low carb guy, they wanted to prove that high fat was problematic for your health. So what they did was they fed people diets, and they basically looked at who had the highest risk of cardiovascular disease. And 7 nations of the results showed increased risk independent of other factors. They didn't account for if people were smoking. They didn't account for lifestyle factors. They basically took the 2 most broad points. What's their cholesterol? What's their incidence of heart problems? And then they said, cholesterol is bad for you. But they didn't look at the context. They didn't look at any other lifestyle factors. And ultimately, it was a flawed study that influenced the dietary guidelines from that point on. Also, they had used some study in rabbits where they fed animals that are not carnivorous in any way, even though humans are a mix of carnivore and scavenger. They fed rabbits basically higher cholesterol food and injected them with cholesterol and saw that it messed them up. And then they applied this to humans, but humans are not rabbits, and we have completely different digestive systems. I mean, rabbits eat their own shit 3 or 4 times before they even, are finished digesting something. So we do not have that digestive system. We do not have 5 stomachs like a cow. We are meant to eat a mix of both, scavenge and animal products in some way, or the nutrients from animal products in some way. Like I said, for myself personally, I'm a big low carb guy, and I will do vegetarian approaches for some parts of the year. Then for a couple weeks, I'll do more carnivorous approaches. All I recommend to you is to lower your sugar, and at the same time, ketogenic approaches or non-ketogenic approaches can still allow benefit from increased egg consumption. But when we're looking at why you should eat the yolk, the nutrients are in there. The cholesterol in there is not going to hurt you. If anything, it can benefit you. And the only reason we think it's going to hurt you is because of flawed studies from the 50s that influence the dietary guidelines. On top of this, you are going to be not getting the complete amount of proteins that are in the full egg, and you're going to be possibly depleting your body of nutrients from eating solely the white. On top of this, if you think about how humans would have been consuming eggs in nature, what sense does it make that we would eat half of a food? If you ate an egg, why would we still consume eggs on a regular basis, or humans be consuming eggs, if we were only consuming, for thousands of years, one part of it? It makes no sense. Humans would just eat the whole egg, okay? So there's a lot of other, philosophical arguments you could make there, but hopefully this video wrapped that all up and made it informative for you. It was a dense video, but this is a powerful practice, and you should start eating the full eggs, especially if you get high quality ones, okay? On top of this, I have other videos explaining which eggs are better. You know, the omega-3 eggs are also still good as well because the chickens are fed flaxseed. But ultimately, try to get higher quality more often than not. So pasture-raised / organic, well, pasture-raised, organic, omega-3, and then basically you have these sort of industrial regular eggs. One thing you'll notice too is that the eggs that are higher quality have harder shells and they have deeper colored yolks. Why is this? A, because there's more nutrients in the yolk. So vitamin A, the fat-soluble vitamins, vitamin A, E, D, and K, particularly D and K, are produced from the carotenoids in grass. So alpha carotene, beta carotene, and when cows and chickens eat the carotenes, they convert them into fat-soluble vitamins. So carotenes are colored. They have that sort of yellow orangish tinge. And when a yolk is higher in nutrients that are produced from the carotenes, it will have a more orange color. The shells themselves will be difficult to crack. They'll actually be hard because in nature, these eggs were trying to be protected from predators. They were offspring. So anyone that was, you know, brittle, like standard industrial eggs, would be basically not that protected from predators, and it could fall and crack, and the offspring would not have produced. It's a modern phenomenon that is produced by the human agricultural engineering and how we've streamlined things through the sort of mercantilist perspective, where basically people are just trying to maximize profit margins and fatten up the chickens and get more eggs. Okay, so that is ultimately this video. Eat the freaking yolk and, you know, experience the benefits. Leave me some questions. I'll do my best to get back to you because I'm sure I didn't answer everything in this long ass video, but hopefully it's changed your perspective on the yolks themselves. I'm Anthony Romano. Peace.